Welcome, friends. My name is Emilio De Torre. I'm the Executive Director of the Milwaukee Turners. I'm incredibly excited for today's important forum with our guests, who I'll introduce in just a couple of minutes. Today's Phillips Forum, Immigration, Refugees, and Our Neighbors, What's Happening Now? We're very excited to be joined by these experts. And also to see all of you here in Turner Hall, on Zoom and Facebook Live, and enjoying tacos while we discuss this. Today's nonpartisan virtual forum is being sponsored in part by MICA, the Public Welfare Foundation, the Wisconsin Civic Power Table, Wisconsin Voices, and the Hertzfeld Foundation. And if you're interested in sponsoring the Phillips Forum, please visit our page on the website. I'm just going to briefly run over a few logistics for our audience in person and for our virtual viewers. In addition to the forum being held here at Turner Hall, our national, state, city, and county historic landmark, this forum is being broadcast on both Zoom and the Milwaukee Turners Facebook page. We invite you to share the live feed to your own Facebook pages using the link provided in the chat so that others might share and learn from this important conversation. It is being recorded, and the edited version will be shared, but you will be able to immediately see and share the Facebook Live version of the broadcast on our page. And please share it while it's happening. I'm encouraging you to use your phones while we speak so that others can follow along, and they can also ask questions. For our friends on Zoom, captioning is available. Click on the live transcript CC icon to use captioning or to turn it off, and then click Show Subtitle. Click View Full Transcript to see the full captioning stream. ASL interpreters are available on Zoom today from DJC Interpreting, and please contact the chat moderators if you need assistance. After the panel, there will be an opportunity for the public to ask questions. Our panelists are Vina Xiong of the Hmong American Women's Association, Attorney Cain Oulahan from Oulahan Immigration Law, Alexandra Guevara of Voces de la Frontera, and Deisy España from Comité Sin Fronteras. For viewers on Facebook Live and Zoom, you can ask your questions or add comments in the chat, and we will share those with your panelists. If you'd like to ask a question here, please raise your hand, and one of our team will bring over an index card for you to write your question. I'd like to ask Milwaukee Turners, staff at least, I see a lot of members here, to raise their hands so you know who our staff and volunteers are for the day. Great, thank you. So let's dig in. Welcome to the Milwaukee Turners Phillips Forum, Immigration, Refugees, and Our Neighbors, What's Happening Now? The chaos and uncertainty in our neighborhoods is being fueled by wild and apparently unlawful actions from our federal government. Threats of mass deportations, removal of permanent U.S. residents, flouting of due process, court battles, injunctions, squelching of First and Fourth Amendment rights, imposters impersonating Department of Homeland Security agents in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North and South Carolina, and the feds invoking little-known laws like the 1798 Alien Enemies Act, while spreading racist and xenophobic rhetoric, has stoked disorder and fear across our country. Today, we're going to take a look at what is happening here and in our own backyards, how all of this is affecting Wisconsin and more specifically Milwaukee. Just this past month or so, Milwaukee saw teacher Alondra Garcia temporarily suspended from Allen Field Elementary School for sharing information about immigration rights with her students. Yesenia Ruano, a teacher's aide at another MPS school, who has 2 children who are U.S. citizens facing possible deportation to El Salvador, where her brother was murdered by gangs, even though she has no criminal background and is in process for a visa as a victim of human trafficking. And Ma Yang, a Hmong nail technician from South Milwaukee with 5 children, was just deported to Laos, a country she has never been to before and where she does not even speak the language, because of a marijuana conviction for which she has already served her time and was released. Ma had lived in the United States for 36 of her 37 years. These people, our neighbors and friends, are just a few of the very real collateral damage from President Trump's threat to deport millions and millions. As of March 6, 2025, 9 Wisconsin County Sheriff's Offices have 287G agreements for their officers to collaborate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. It's Brown, Fond du Lac, Manitowoc, Marquette, Sheboygan, Washington, Waukesha, Waushara, and Winnebago counties. Their combined population is over 1,208,000 people. And some members of our state legislature are attempting to strong-arm local county governments to enforce immigration detentions in their jails. So when I watch the tearful videos of people who are originally supporters of this current national regime, When I see their acute buyer's remorse as they feel the economic and social effects of their choices at the ballot box, my sympathies for them are outweighed by the easily anticipated and much more hurtful effects of familial dislocations, the anxieties of students who are not attending school and college for fear of their parents being rounded up while they are at class, the workers who are not showing up for fear of being detained and pulled away from their spouses and children, the neighbors who aren't reporting crimes or violence for fear of being arrested when they show up to speak to law enforcement officers that they have known for years. I think of the families who are not going to doctors because they're unsure of what will happen on their way. And I think of the way ICE is weaponized to stifle free speech and chill anti-genocide protests on our college campuses and beyond. And I think of the terrible threats of the government to use our armed forces domestically to assist in their plans for mass detention and deportation. All of these things, coupled with the complicated nature of immigration law generally, create very real, very negative impacts for all of us in Milwaukee. And as a counterpoint to these gloomy events, Alondra Garcia was just honored today with a citation from Milwaukee County, thanks to County Supervisor Caroline Gomez-Tom. And of course, it is my absolute pleasure to be able to talk about these issues with such caring and brilliant folks this evening. So, take a deep breath and I'll say welcome again. We are going to have a nice conversation, share some questions. These people are all brilliant and working in our community in different ways. And I'm hoping you will take a minute each to tell us a little about who you are and what you do. We'll pick on this gentleman first.
Thanks, Emilio. Hi, everyone. My name is Cain Oulahan. I'm an immigration attorney, and I've been doing this about almost 14 years now. So what I do day to day is I represent individual immigrants in their immigration cases. That may be getting some type of a visa, green card process through family members. I represent survivors or victims of crimes and human trafficking in their visa cases, DACA, citizenship, and then one of the most critical right now is defense attorney for people in deportation proceedings. So most people in deportation get to go to court. I'm the defense attorney that sits across from a prosecutor from ICE and tries to convince a judge from Department of Justice to allow them to stay in this country. I work with folks from all around the world. As you can imagine, we have a very diverse state. Most of my clients tend to reside in Wisconsin, but I'd probably say maybe 3/4 are Spanish-speaking from Latin America, but the rest come from a wide range of countries around the world. So it's always fascinating and challenging work, especially right now, as we know. And so that's what I do. I'm in private practice. Aside from that, I tend to do a lot of volunteer work, giving Know Your Rights presentations, especially now, with church groups, nonprofits, civil rights organizations. So that's a little bit about what I'm doing these days. And thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Gracias, Emilio. Buenas tardes. My name is Alexandra Guevara. Ella, she, her, my pronouns. I'm the communications director at Voces de la Frontera here in Milwaukee. As you probably know, we do a lot of immigration and work with immigrants and defend immigrant workers' rights and families' rights. I've been doing that. I'm an immigrant myself. I was born in Bolivia. And believe me, when I came from Bolivia, I never thought I would be escaping one reality to meet my next reality that is almost mirroring what I left behind. That's basically me. I'm a board member at several organizations that I'm not going to mention because I'm not wearing those hats today. But I'm happy to talk about all of that later with all of you. Gracias. Gracias, Turners.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to be here and to be sitting on this panel with so many wonderful folks. My name is Vina. I use she, her pronouns. I work at the Hmong American Women's Association as the Education Outreach Director. For those who don't know, the Hmong American Women's Association, or HAWA, we are a Hmong women-led and Hmong queer femme-led organization that works directly with Hmong women, Southeast Asian women, LGBTQ plus folks, and youth who are directly impacted by domestic violence and sexual assaults. And then in addition to the direct advocacy services that we provide, we also do civic engagement work, gathering our community to go out and vote, sharing voter resources, and creating more access to voting for the Hmong community here in Milwaukee. I've been with the organization for, I think, 5 years now. And I mean, I think ever since I joined the organization, I love the work that I do. I'm always out in community, and I feel like, what I find joy in is actually meeting folks in the community, creating events like this where I can actually talk to Hmong folks and listen to their concerns, listen to what they care about, and, help them also realize that, hey, you can actually use your voice too.
Thank you.
My name is Deisy España, Daisy with the E, D-E-I-S-Y, it's a little bit weird. And I'm not from Spain either. I'm a proud daughter of Mexican immigrants. My dad's undocumented. My mom became a permanent resident almost 2 years ago. And I was raised on the South Side. And I've done a lot of things these last few years. I ran for assembly last year. I did not win, but that's okay. And now I'm an organizer with Comité Sin Fronteras, which is a new committee under Voces de la Frontera. And we're doing a lot of great work. And I'm really excited to be here and to talk to all of you guys. Yeah.
Thank you. So each of you is very active in bringing people together to advocate for the rule of law and to educate communities. What are you seeing as threats here in Milwaukee County? And you can self-select who speaks.
I can start. So what we've been seeing a lot is fear and confusion. I think those are the main aspects. Yes, we've seen deportations. Yes, we've seen ICE presence. But what we've been really dealing with at Voces de la Frontera is calls, mails, conversations with community about how afraid people are, how confused people are, how many things are happening at the same time all at once that people do not know how to react to. We see people paralyzed. And we think that's by design. Fear is an incredibly useful tool. When you have the community in fear, when you have a community that's afraid, it's a lot easier to oppress them. It's a lot easier to do harm. And so that has also developed into two basic things that are happening. The community is not being able to come together the way we've seen in the past. People don't want to come to marches, don't want to come to protests, don't want to come to meetings because they're afraid. And the other side of that reality is also that the people who are afraid of immigrants, who are scapegoated as criminals, are also afraid and in fear and might turn into those impersonators, patriots who want to save the nation from those terrible immigrants. And so that's another aspect that we have been seeing, how our community is actually being divided by perception, by what's happening on the news and in social media.
Thank you.
I can piggyback on that a little bit. One of the points I wanted to make is about social media. We're seeing a lot of misinformation, some of it intentional and some of it just by mistake. And so I think that's a big risk, and people need to be aware that there are people trying to just get likes and make money essentially off of people liking their posts. And that's helping create division and fear and just growing the fear that we already have. We don't need that. So we need to be very conscious about what we pay attention to, where we find our information. And if we're going to try to help and post things, like, I think it may be helpful sometimes if you see ICE and you put it out there. But you have to make sure that's verifiable, because if not, you're going to probably cause more damage than good. So that's one threat I see is misinformation. Another one that's a real concrete one, and we've probably seen it in the media, is that ICE is trying to open a larger facility in Milwaukee. And part of, I think, the reason we haven't seen necessarily increased enforcement in our streets yet is because they don't have the space or the manpower yet, but they are working on that. And so we need to be aware of that. And I think there is some real community resistance building to that as well. So, so that's also something to be really watching and following. Another thing is, and this is not just us, but everywhere, is that this administration has eliminated protections in sensitive places, which we used to have for schools, hospitals, churches, child care centers. Those are gone. The official protections are gone, so those are fair game in their eyes now. And so that's a real threat, and we need to figure out as a community, how do we respond to that? How do we create safe spaces, or do our best to do that, so that people can still go and get those essential services and feel that they can access those things they have a right to access, right? Healthcare and education. So those are the main points that come to mind for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can jump in a little bit too to share about. Sorry, yeah. I was just saying I could jump in to share a little bit more about within the Hmong community, right? What we're hearing in the community as well, and I think it's very similar. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of confusion about what's really happening. Folks don't know who to trust, where to go to, where help is, and a lot of it comes from the language barrier as well. A lot of Hmong folks, they don't speak English, and so they don't understand all the information that are being shared, and so there's the interpretation and the translation that has to happen too to share the information over, right? And I don't know if very many people know about, the Hmong community, but I could do like a very broad, not very detailed explanation about, Hmong folks in the context of how we came here into the United States. But so the Hmong community, and like many other Southeast Asian communities, came over to the United States as refugee of the war in Southeast Asia. And so for the Hmong folks, we worked with U.S. soldiers in the past during, the war in Southeast Asia, and as a support that we've given to the United States, we're promised that we will be brought here to the U.S. To, have a place, a refuge, and to be refugees here. And so I don't know if many of you know, but this is the 50th year that Hmong folks and other Southeast Asian folks has been in the United States. And so I think for many of the Hmong communities, seeing that it's a 50th year and seeing that, immigration and deportation are conversations that are happening within the community, we don't know why, right? That why are we being impacted by this when we were promised as, folks that help the U.S. soldiers to be brought here, right, to have a place of refuge. And so, yeah, I think there's not a lot of resources out there. There's not a lot of materials out there that Hmong community and Hmong folks can really turn to help, even educate themselves or to go for resources.
Thank you.
I'll quickly say something. So someone mentioned that people are scared to drive, and I think who wouldn't, right? In the state of Wisconsin, if you get stopped 3 times and you don't have a driver's license, that's a felony. And I think someone correct me if I'm wrong, but in Milwaukee County, in the courts, ICE can be present in the courtrooms, and so you can be there for I don't know, to appear in front of somebody because you were driving without a license, and then ICE can essentially just be there and then take you. Can someone fact check that? I don't know if I'm saying the truth. That's true. Yeah. So that's a real concern, especially because a lot of people don't have driver's license. We lost driver's license in 2007, I believe, and we have yet to restore that. But then on the state level, I know you wanted to talk about the county, but on the state level, AB 24, which just passed in the assembly, which essentially forces county sheriffs to do the job of ICE. I mean, it's going to go to the Senate, and Governor Evers has said that he would veto, but things like that have just instilled fear and continue to do so. But then again, in the student perspective, we saw what happened with Mahmoud Khalil, I think that's how you pronounce his name, from Columbia University, right? He's a green card holder. He got detained, and now they want to revoke his green card. So there's, yeah, I mean, students are scared, people are scared, even people who have some kind of status. Like, there's just this uncertainty. But yeah, I guess that's what we're seeing in Milwaukee County, but across the state and across the country.
It's very depressing, and what we've been hearing here, and I normally don't add in, but it's affecting us so much. We've been doing immigration rights trainings almost daily, 7 days a week in different communities, creating resources. Certainly, what you're saying about the fear of ICE being in all of these locations is heavy, even though the Milwaukee Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, the DA's office aren't looking to enforce immigration. But it's still out there, and who knows what the federal government will do, and also understanding the threats, the very real threats of things like AB 24, which you mentioned, which is being done punitively so that all 72 counties in the state would have to honor ICE detainers if given to a sheriff's department, or that county would be reduced, would have their budget reduced by 15% of shared revenue. So if they do not honor, you have to understand they're being extorted to comply. We call it strong arming. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. We've heard from teachers, from the 4 or 5 universities in the area, folks not showing up, coupled with everything you all have just said. But another important question is, so how does this affect all of us? You know, all of us in Milwaukee, not just families who have loved ones who are immigrants. You know, residents, both immigrant and U.S.-born, are concerned about very real threats like car threats, car thefts, or human trafficking. Does the government's response, the federal government or the local government's response, have any effect on folks that aren't immigrants?
On folks who are not immigrants?
Sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll just mention one that I deal with a lot, which is victims of crime. So we have a U visa, which allows a non-citizen, an immigrant, who is a victim of a serious crime to cooperate, report that crime, cooperate with law enforcement, and then receive a visa so that they're not worried about being deported. So what does that do? It improves public safety, right? Because if they're too scared to report crime, that means people are getting away with it. That means there are perpetrators out there who are free to then victimize other people in our community. And who else? We all live in this community together, right? So if people are too scared to report crime, it makes us all less safe, everybody. So that's one example.
Yeah, I mean, I can say some things too. I feel like, yes, for sure it'll impact not just families, it impacts everyone. And I'm thinking about like resources and investments into communities, right? If resources are being directed to support like immigration laws or policies, like where are then the resources that are getting, you know, divided into housing or divided into food access, right? We all need housing, we all need access to food, and so I see that as like one impact of folks who may not be immigrants, who may not, you know, feel like, hey, I'm not going to get impacted by this, right? So it is going to impact, you know, our access to food, our access to safety, our access to health, you know.
Yeah, I think one of the risks is that they're trying to portray punitive reinforcement of immigration as a safety measure for citizens, right? And in that process, they are portraying immigrants as criminals. And so the solution is to get rid of criminals. And really, that's only going to actually have the opposing impact. Communities that are divided, that are afraid, that start to fighting each other, actually are a lot more dangerous. Immigrants, the studies show that immigrants are less prone to to violence, to committing crimes, and the inability to come together and build community is the greater risk when it comes to protecting each other.
I don't have much to add. I will say that, like, in terms of the economy, I mean, it's expensive, right? If you're trying to deport, like, even one person, right? But I think I lost what I was gonna say. It's very expensive, so it's gonna come out of somebody's pocket.
You're absolutely on the mark there. The estimates, conservative estimates for the mass deportations that President Trump has proposed is over $1 trillion. And if you take a look, 1 trillion, I mean, I don't even know how many zeros go after a trillion, but it's going to cost that. And if you take a look at the economic impact of as you said, processing just one court case. Now, we have understaffed courts. All local law enforcement, police, deputies, ICE, CBP can't get the officers they need, and they have these budgets. And now they're talking about whole-scale sweep-up of individuals, which media is pretending live in some sort of isolated bubble and have nothing to do with anybody economically or socially, which is a lie, is creating an additional lie saying that, oh, immigrants, foreign people, are far more criminogenic, demonstrably a lie, and then imagining that folks don't have interactions, whereas immigrants, under the many different visas and legal statuses, as well as those who are undocumented, are paying all sorts of taxes, rent and buying goods, and you know, it goes on and on and on, especially with your TIN number, your A number. The government always knows. We handle questions at the end. If you have a question, I encourage you to write a question down on the index card, and they'll pass it forward. And for those of us watching on Zoom, same thing, but a digital index card. So these are all clearly crafted xenophobic lies to create an otherness so that they can do what they're doing.
Can I chime in one more time?
Please.
I mean, along that same line, you deport this many people, you're deporting workers that support whole industries, like the dairy industry in Wisconsin. So if we start to see those farms and companies close, American workers are going to lose their jobs too, right? Prices are going to go up on all the things that we already pay too much for. So that's one basic effect. But I'm also worried about the slippery slope. If we say it's okay to detain, you know, and ignore the rights and the First Amendment rights of, you know, the undocumented first, and now permanent residents. Well, when is it going to hit citizens next? I mean, it's just an erosion of rights, and if we allow it to happen, who's stopping it from reaching all of us, right? They're using that just to justify their actions. And they start with the most vulnerable. We've seen it, you know, in other countries. So it's a real big concern.
I agree, and that's the real risk. It's like they're starting with the immigrants, but that's just the beginning, right? The immigrants are the easy excuse. But once they start taking away our rights, they're going to go for everyone, right? Obviously, the most vulnerable communities first, but everyone then who opposes their values or their norms or what they believe is the right way to be a nation.
I would almost suspect that because we saw this happen, I don't know, about 8 years ago, the attempt. So the state of Wisconsin has a no private prisons law. So they get around that by creating detention centers for immigrants, which are operated by outside contractors. There's no civilian oversight. There's no government oversight. And then so they use that by creating an image of vilifying an immigrant and detaining them there in family custody. So we're talking children, adults, all sorts of folks. There's very little due process. And then they're warehoused there in inhumane conditions. And once those are empty, to Kane's point about a slippery slope, that will be the way to negotiate and get around and then refill those prisons because it's a money-making business. It's similar to how they just redetermined what they're going to do with Guantanamo Bay, except that this type of thing, they attempted to do this in New Richmond over on the west coast of Wisconsin, and we in a large group were able to prevent that from happening all those years ago. What's to say that won't happen again as they create RFPs and contracts? And then what's to say they won't begin to then put other citizens and folks in these prisons because they've got them and it's a money-making machine?
You made me think of two things, actually, Emilio, if you allow me.
Please.
The first thing is, it's important to say that this is racialized, right? We're not talking about anything other than black and brown immigrants. We need to remember that first. The other thing is, funny enough, today in our car, we were listening to a podcast that was talking about how the U.S. is paying Panama and Costa Rica to become bridge countries to house temporarily people who have been deported from the U.S. and that have not been able to go back to their countries, right? So this is expensive. And what we're investing there, we're taking away from the actual root causes of most of our problems, right? Housing, food, safety in the right way, not punitive, and many other aspects, healthcare.
Absolutely. I mean, if I have a communicable disease and I'm afraid to go to the doctor,
Yep.
but I'm still going to come in contact with plenty of other folks, what does that mean? So I'm getting lots of questions, and that's great, and I encourage you to write down questions. Hats off to the person with the excellent font and handwriting that just handed this to me. This is very legible. So another question we have, and then we'll begin jumping through these two. This is upsetting. It's dangerous. It flies directly in the face of our Bill of Rights, our Constitution, and all that we have seemingly enshrined as a collective nation. And I think that people watching the news are frequently feel this distance, like they're watching this play, this thing that's out of their control unfurl before them, and they feel powerless. What are ways, and this is also jumping back to your point about the rumors that we hear, what are ways that people can get real information about what's happening, and what are ways that our viewers, as well as the folks sitting here with us now, can become a part of the solution?
I think we're all under the same umbrella, right? Like, I know there's a lot going on, and I think not everybody can be at one place at one time and at one event or part of one organization. But I think I'm gonna be biased. You guys should join Comité Sin Fronteras. We're great. But if you need a place to go, we would love to have you. Right now we're working on a rapid response network that hopefully will be ready soon. And it will be established all across the state. But I forgot what I was saying again. We have to remember that while we're trying to be proactive, a lot of this is like reactive, right? Like, we have our long-term goals of pathway to citizenship and things of that nature, but there's always something happening. Like, going back to the assembly bill, right? Like, we didn't know. One day we woke up and it was on the table, right? So you have to start like figuring out what to do, who to get, how to show up. And so I always say it's better to be in community rather than be like on your own. And I think that's just a way for you guys to get plugged in if you guys join Comité Sin Fronteras.
That Deisy España was financed by the Comité Sin Frontera. No.
I can add to that because I'm going to invite people to Voces. The truth is, there's many things that we can do. I was thinking about this question ahead of time in the sense of there's little things we can do for ourselves. Let's not forget about joy. Let's not forget about community. Let's not forget about our neighbors. We can start there. If you have immigrant neighbors, talk to them, make sure they're okay, offer support, build relationships. Building community is actually what's gonna save us. It sounds kumbaya, but it's real. If we don't start building community in a way that's also intersectional, if we don't come together, we're not gonna be able to defeat what could be coming. I'm gonna say could be. I hope it's not coming. But there's also some practical ways. What Emilio was talking about with the know your rights, it's very important that people understand their rights. Not only understand them, defend them actively. And so all of you here can become facilitators and go back to your communities and help us spread the word about stay silent, don't open the door, give them the card. But there's many other things that we can learn and share with our communities. We should start building mutual aid systems, mechanisms in our communities, starting with people who are gonna need food if their parents are deported, who are gonna need housing, who are gonna need a lawyer. There's gonna be many needs, and having that, not only financial, but community support is gonna be very important, and that's something that all of us can start doing. And we're also gonna protest, and we're gonna rally, and we're gonna show them that there are people who believe in immigrants and in Black and brown communities and in women and in the LGBTQ community, and that we're gonna continue showing that we have the power to change things. So we're building up for May Day. This year, May Day is gonna be a huge moment for us, and I hope you all can join us and be there in person to let them know that we're many. Too many for them.
I'd like to add to that because I really love all your points, but especially the one about building community and mutual aid. I saw a really beautiful example of that recently when I was doing a Know Your Rights presentation in a suburban community near Milwaukee, and they had actually gotten a group of volunteers together. Mostly, they were all Americans, mostly retired folks who volunteer to drive immigrants they know to their immigration appointments, to their court dates, whenever they need a ride, because they don't have driver's licenses. So it protects them. It's something very tangible that someone can do. It makes a huge difference in an immigrant's life. So, and they're doing that as a community, not just an individual. It makes a bigger impact that way. They're also talking about, in a lot of places, organizing things like bond funds. So when an immigrant is detained, they usually have the right to an immigration bond to get out of custody. But that's going to be a minimum of $1,500, and it can be higher as well, depending on what the judge decides. So if you can help create these funds and make some money accessible to people who don't have it, they can get out of custody sooner. There's little things like that that are going to make a big difference. And donate to the right organizations who are doing high-impact litigation, right, that are challenging these policies in court, like the ACLU, the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project out in Seattle. They're doing some really amazing work for minors, immigrant youth. And MALDEF is one. I mean, there's a ton of them, so you can look them up. But there's a lot of important work being done where you can put some funds into the right place. And then, of course, with the activism aspect, pressuring our elected officials to do the right thing, to have some accountability, right, for Congress to actually have hearings on this stuff. So, okay, those are my thoughts.
Right. Those are all good thoughts, and I normally just ask Socratic questions, but I'm going to chime in a little. The opportunity for us to get involved on the city and county and state level is pretty easy. When we think about national issues and national concerns, it seems so unreachable. If you live in the city of Milwaukee, you have an older person. You should contact them and ask their opinion on this and what they're doing. If you live in the county of Milwaukee, you have a county supervisor. You should contact them. They're really approachable and ask what they're doing. Each of you that live in the state have a state rep and a senator. They're easy to reach. They're super easy. And if you've never done it, we can teach you how. But it's important to know, even if you don't know what to ask for, even if you don't know what the solution is, that's okay. Just call them and say, you care, this is important, I live here, I share this community with other people, and I give a damn, what are you going to do about it? Because I voted for you to do something about it. You figure out that solution. You just asked them questions and told them you were alive and you're watching them. That's great. There's other groups too. I know that Comité Sin Fronteras did fundraisers for students who are DACA recipients. There are, of the 308,000 immigrants in the state, 10,000 of those are children who are eligible for DACA. But only about 60% of them have completed their thing. That leaves their form. Each of those forms costs about $605 if you do it in paper, or $550 if you do it online. Donate $600 to a group that will give that student that money and help them a scholarship so that they can fulfill the legal process that is available for them to stay here. It's that easy. And if you don't have $600, I don't. It's like Girl Scout cookies. Ask everybody for $10 and boop, it's that easy. And there are a lot of other things. The donation to the larger groups doing impact litigation is important. Making sure that we have welcome and affirming spaces. You can put that on a sign and put that on your business if you own a business. All you have to do is extend a smile, and sometimes that smile is not just the one between our ears, but the one that's by the simple actions. Spending my money at a business or a restaurant that I know is owned by immigrant or immigrant-adjacent peoples, you know, revenue sharing is important. If I'm not showing up for work properly, but I'm cooking here with Abuela every night, it would be nice if you could help give us some money, because I'm frightened to do this thing because of all of the fear-mongering that we've heard, the racism and the xenophobia, and the forgetting of 50-year-long promises that have been made. That's not what we are about. And so there are many easy ways to do local small actions and share this. And one other shameless plug, when you walked in, and they're in the back over here, we created, us and many other people that care in Milwaukee, free immigration resources and trainings, which are in the back in English and Spanish. It's a quick QR code. You can scan it. We update it weekly. I didn't update it this week, but usually we update it weekly. And it lists everything, every form that any immigrant would need to complete their stuff, how to create safety trainings. It's in English and Spanish, and it has the link to dozens of additional languages created by other organizations similar to the ones that you mentioned, Cain, that are national, where they have rooms just like you all that care about this too. County Supervisor Caroline Gomez-Tom has invited me to do this in her district on the 25th. I hope to see you there. It'll be in 2 languages. This is being shared. That's a simple ask. If you go to mosque, if you go to temple, if you go to church, if you're practicing Buddhist and you have a space where people can meet, these are all places where you can open up the doors and get community members to come and meet somebody that might be different from them, that is going through something which is going to traumatize them and affect you and affect our democracy, which is all not things that we want.
Right.
Now I'll switch back into my Socratic question mode. So I have about 1 million questions here. And I'm gonna slam them together. So you may have been very eloquent and written me the greatest question ever, but it's kind of similar to some of the other questions I have. So I'm gonna remove your art and your thought and just squash it. We'll start with Mr. Oulahan. It's funny to call you by your last name, to me at least. And we have a couple of legal specific questions, but I'll open it up. I'll frame it broadly and then a little more specifically. Do you think really that legal avenues like fighting cases through the courts, through the immigration system itself, are still effective means of defending people's rights? Can we still rely on that system given the administration's aggressive attempts to reshape it to its own advantage? And how hopeful are we that the system is going to be around for
Yeah, I mean, great question. I say absolutely. We better not give up on it. I mean, it's one of the most fundamental rights we have is to due process, access to, the legal system, the courts, and the benefits that were granted, approved by Congress, and signed into law by past presidents, right? We can't just give up on those things. And so right now, those things are still accessible and available, and we need to take advantage of them. And if they start to erode them, we need to fight like hell to keep the access to them, right? So I can't predict how far they're going to go. They're going to try to make things more difficult. They already have. We saw it in the first Trump administration. They tried to do what they could to throw up roadblocks, even though we heard from those campaigns, why don't immigrants do things the legal way? Well, now they put up roadblocks to do it the legal way, right? So that's going to happen, but that just means we have to fight harder, right? We have to sue more. I can't predict if we're going to get to a point where the legal system doesn't work anymore. If we do, it's going to be very dire, isn't it? And we're going to have to find other means to fight. But it absolutely is working for now. I have clients in all different types of processes, through going to the consulates to get their green cards and coming back. In immigration court, I've won a few asylum cases recently. So, you take the small victories, and those are huge for people. But yes, it's a big concern whether that's going to stick around. We've never seen the level of attack in terms of the rhetoric and the executive orders that are entered. I've never seen it, not just since I've been doing this, though. I think in our lifetimes, maybe since Japanese internment. So it's very concerning, but I think that means it's time to fight harder than ever to preserve it.
Yep. Definitely.
Here's another good question. I'm going to squish it with a similar question. So, and I've wondered this myself from a different angle. Sometimes folks want power. Sometimes they say this for safety. Can any of you even begin to speculate why folks want these mass deportations? Now, I'm going to make a side note. A part of me wondered that if Trump was jealous that Obama deported more people than he did, and so he's just doing this to do more than Obama. Because let's be real, President Obama deported more people than any other president during his institution. And so for me, I always thought that was some sort of ego trip reason. But why do people want mass deportation? Can we speculate on that?
I mean, the big replacement is my immediate response, right? Is the sense. It's really xenophobia and racism. That's what it is. It's using a mechanism to be able to exploit people for economic benefit, right? I mean, that's my simple answer is making sure you have a community that is afraid and criminalized enough to be able to pay them $7 an hour for milking cows, right? Instead of paying them $22 for whatever job they do. It's actually basic math in that sense. And I don't know if I should say 4 words, but authoritarianism requires fear, requires anxiety. It's the only way regimes like that are able to do whatever they want to benefit the few of them that actually benefit from such situations. When I was introducing myself, I was telling you that I come from Bolivia. I've been in several coups d'etats, right? And
don't bring that stuff over here. No, kidding.
I know, but I was saying, it's very interesting when you've experienced that. I was very young, but there are signs right now that look so similar that it's scary, right? And that's the goal.
Yeah. And certainly the way that media is juxtapositioning immigrants and foreigners as being in some sort of competition for something you have as a black person, as a white person, as a citizen, is a terrible fable that we've seen time and time again, right? Oh, the Irish are going to take our jobs, the Italians are taking our jobs, the black folks are taking our jobs, and it just keeps adding to the cycle to keep folks that are both competing for what they hope might be a livable wage at one another's throats. Oh, it's very upsetting.
Yeah, I just want to make a comparison as well because HAWA works with domestic violence survivors, right? And I want to say this is an example of like displaying power and control over like a group of people, right? You open up your borders, you let folks know, hey, come here for the American dream, come here for success, right? And then when folks want to come here, then you hang like this, ticket over their head saying, well, if you don't act right or if you don't be a certain way, then like you're going to get sent back, right? So holding that, as a power, as and abusing that power, right, to the folks that you are telling to come into the country.
I don't know how many people know the Milwaukee Turners will be 172 in June, and we were founded by war refugees and immigrants. That's who came over here. There were folks who had they wanted the American dream, like Daisy and Vina were saying, and they wanted these things, and they didn't get it in Germany, and so they came here. And they were not well received by all the folks, especially English folks, that had different customs from them. And similar narratives played out, but they didn't have TikTok, so it didn't last very long.
I mean, I think having Musk sitting in that chair is the most clear symbol of what we're going to see of why they want to do this. Like it couldn't be more symbolic than that.
Coupled with a $5 million gold card that they were positioning.
Yeah.
So you can, if you have $5 million, it's okay to come here. That's the ante. I'm just asking for clarity. I didn't understand what he was saying, although I knew the words. So here's a very important technical question, and again, a lot of these are in the immigration trainings that we're sharing, which are free, completely free, and the resource kits. What type of documents should be kept on file when traveling as an immigrant person, and what as if you may be in a multi-status family, you may have one person or another person that's there, and you want to keep important documentation if something happens. What type of documents should be kept on file?
So I can tell you that legally, if you have a green card, you're required to carry it with you. It's just a law, and it's a good idea anyways, right? Because it identifies your status. You are allowed to be here. Now, we're in a scary time where just having a green card may not, be enough to keep you out of custody or in the country, but it should be. And you do need to carry it. And I think that in asserting our rights, people should have their proof of their lawful status with them if they do have a lawful status. If they don't have a lawful status, it gets a little more complicated, right? One thing that locally we didn't actually mention yet is that you can get ID if you're a resident of Milwaukee, the city of Milwaukee. You can get a municipal ID. So I think having some ID is good. Another thing that I'll mention that is a big concern, and this is only a small group of people, but it is a significant group, is any immigrants who have been here less than 2 years who don't have a lawful status may be subject to an old law that we never really implemented before, but that under a new executive order they're going to likely start, is that someone can be quickly deported without a hearing if they cannot show affirmatively they've been here at least 2 years in the country. So they may want to have documents, an immigrant who's been here less than 2 years and doesn't have a status yet, documents showing their presence. So it could be, bank account statements, it could be pay stubs, something showing your address and that you're living here, because you want access, again, to due process to go in front of a judge and see if you have a way to stay here or not. Those are the things that come to mind. But I say most other documents you'd want to keep in a safe place at home, rather than carrying them around with you. Now, these days, maybe having those evidence of 2 years like saved as PDFs on your phone would be a good way to do it, rather than carrying a pile of documents around with you. It's just not really practical.
So what about, a lot of us use fake IDs to buy beer back in the day. What about a fake ID? Is that a good idea?
So I will say 100% it's never a good idea to have a fake or fraudulent identification. And if you have it, it's not a good idea to show it to any law enforcement officer at all. It's crime, it's fraud, and it can get you into more trouble. So absolutely, if you don't have ID, just, you don't have it, but don't use fake IDs or lie.
Good to know. So none of you will believe I'm 21 then. Damn.
The other document people can take with them if they're undocumented is the red card.
And what is a red card?
So the red card is a pocket card, like a business card that explains them the basic rights and that they can hand an agent or a sheriff with the rights saying, I don't want to talk to you, I want to remain silent, I need a lawyer now.
So do you mean to tell me that I don't have to talk to law enforcement if they come over to me?
That's absolutely right, yeah. No, you don't. The Constitution applies to everyone, regardless of immigration status. So those red cards are really helpful because you can just imagine someone who's feeling intimidated, who maybe doesn't understand English well, they may have been through a Know Your Rights presentation, but in the moment, they may go blank because it's just so much pressure and fear, right? And the language issue. So you pull out that red card and it's a reminder. These are my rights, and I can either read from it or I can hand it to the person. And absolutely, no one has to answer questions with law enforcement at all if they don't want to, if you don't feel comfortable.
So by extension, are you also saying that immigrant folks, regardless of status, might have certain rights? Like, do they just have to allow the police or ICE into their house or apartment?
They actually don't. So we have the Fourth Amendment against unlawful search and seizure. And so law enforcement can't come into a person's home without a warrant, judicial warrant signed by a judge, not a administrative warrant, which ICE tends to have. I won't say all the time, but that's usually what they would have. That does not allow them to come into a home. So it has to be a judicial warrant signed by a judge to search that premise or to arrest a person who lives in that address. If they don't have that, they can't come in unless you give them permission.
I've heard that called the vampire rule. Law enforcement can only come in if you invite them in. So for all my Bram Stoker fans out there. So another question connected to that, Attorney Oulahan. So I can barely read the handwriting on these index cards. Say I don't say I don't read English, and if they have a warrant, and I understand this, would they be allowed to slide it under the door and let me take a picture and send it to my son who reads English? How do I navigate that?
Absolutely. So they could slide it under the door if that works, if you have the space. Otherwise, they can hold it up to a window. You can take your time. There's nothing requiring you to, comply within a certain amount of time. You can read that, send it to someone or call someone who speaks English and try to get them to help you understand it. I think the bottom line is if you don't know for sure that it's a judicial warrant, we okay? Is that don't open the door. The default is just to don't open the door. And if they really do have a judicial warrant and you don't open, well, then maybe they'll end up breaking the door down. But I think that it's better to err on that side than to open the door and they don't really have a warrant and now they're in and who knows what's going to happen next, right?
So say I'm at home in my apartment, I'm an immigrant, and they say they're going to go. I just have to sign this piece of paper saying that they came there so they don't get in trouble with their boss. Is that advisable?
I would say definitely not. Unfortunately, we've seen, what do you want to call it, tricks, attempts by agents to outright lie. I mean, it's happened. I would not accuse most agents of being untruthful, but it has happened. It absolutely has. It's been documented that they've lied. They've said, and I've also seen or heard directly from people who have had this happen where they'll come with a picture of someone and say, we're looking for this person. Can you just open up and we're going to show you the picture and see if you know them. And it's someone they have no idea who it is. They're just trying to get in the door. Mm-hmm. So, remember those basic rights and stick to them.
Thank you for that. What about if I am concerned that something might happen to me for whatever reason? What are some ways that I can prepare myself and my family? I mean, would I have to think about giving permission for a neighbor to pick up my kids at school? Or, would I have to get a guardian ad litem or a power of attorney so that somebody can buy meds for my wife or access my bank? I mean, these are all very real processes. We all have debts, therefore we all have ways we're paying those debts and uses and needs and connected to things. Who's going to feed my dogs? I mean, what's some way that folks that are watching this, or folks that are listening to this, folks that will see this in the future, can think about how they can prepare themselves?
So one of the things that we've been doing, and you've been doing here with the Turners, is combating fear with preparedness. Families that are prepared, many of them go to Know Your Rights workshops and learn about a family plan, a safety plan, where they learn what documents to have with them, what documents to prepare for their children, for their financial situations, how to be ready if something happens, how to defend their rights. Those workshops have been very empowering for our community members. We've been with close to 20,000 people in Wisconsin with Know Your Rights and family preparedness plans. And they're still going because there's a huge need. And what we observe with people after the workshop is that they feel a lot safer, not because they're safer, but because they trust themselves and they know they're ready. It's very important to empower people to defend their own rights.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And getting into some specifics, the two main documents I would recommend people have are power of attorney for parental power, which is then decisions for your children, who can pick them up, who can make healthcare choices for your children if you're not available, and then the one for finances, which allows people to access bank accounts and manage your property and things like that. So I think it's very advisable to have those. They're both pretty simple documents that are available online. A lot of these workshops we've been doing will have assistance, so an attorney can help. They do have to be notarized, but you don't have to have an attorney fill it out. Of course, it's nice to have that to make sure you understand, but there are forms that someone can fill out on their own, or you can have a social worker help you fill it out. A lot of times, hospitals or clinics will have help with those forms, so those are great ways to get prepared.
Great. Vina and Deisy, did you have anything you might want to add that someone that's working with immigrants, is an immigrant watching this, like something that they could prepare to make sure that they are that much safer? I really liked what Alexandra was saying about how going through that exercise or meeting other people that are sharing this information also helps to bring down the emotional and mental health of the individual who felt unknowledgeable and frightened.
No, but I mean, yes to that, but no, I don't think I have anything else to add. Well, maybe one thing, which I don't know if it has anything to do with what we're talking about. It's like a difficult topic to bring up to your kids, right? Especially if you're undocumented and like they're in school or things like that. And we're seeing a lot of talk about ICE raids in schools and whatnot, and then to the point of not opening doors. Like when I was a kid, my parents are undocumented. They were like, don't open the door. And I was never told why until I was older. I was able to understand. But then a lot of kids open the door, and so then that's I think just having like those conversations with your kids, like up to you how you want to have those conversations. It's a very difficult. Some people choose not to. If there's nothing to worry about right now, they just choose not to. But I think when you talk about being prepared, whether something happens at school or at your home or at your job, it's like a lot of people are sending kids with the red cards to school. So yeah, I guess just talking amongst your family members or your kids, your parents, or whoever is really important. It's unfortunate, but it's very important.
Thank you. And just so you viewers and folks in the room know, even if a 3-year-old kid that's not paying rent clearly opens the door and invites law enforcement or ICE in, they are allowed in,
Yes.
just so you know. Even if that 3-year-old kid is your 3-year-old kid's friend from next door. And maybe Cain can argue about it, but I'd rather hedge my bets. So here's a question. People have heard the phrase self-deport and tricky orders to register as undocumented. What are those real? Is that something that folks should do?
I don't think anyone should do any of those, but I know people who are self-deporting, right, who are preparing to leave, right?
Rosie O'Donnell.
Huh?
Rosie O'Donnell moved to Ireland. I heard that the other day.
Yep.
It's true. I'm not making a joke.
Yeah, so I do know people who are just, you know, they're more tired than anything, and they are self-deporting. I saw a lot of people do that in the beginning, like the first few weeks of this administration, and now I know a few families or parents who are choosing to self-deport. I don't want them to, but it's like, I don't know. You can't really change their mind. There was one of my friend's grandparents, like, self-deported because they were just, like, too tired. And it was really sad because the grandma was like, Daisy, like, if you tell me we're gonna get driver's license, because they lived in Milwaukee, if you tell me we're gonna get driver's license in the next few days, we'll stay, right? So I don't know, it's just really sad. But yeah, I mean, like, we are seeing a lot of people self-deport, which then, like, whether they self-deport or they're forced to be or removed, is gonna, going back to the point earlier, it's gonna impact all of us, whether we like it or not.
This is terribly sad.
I can speak to the other side of that question, which is the registration requirement that just came out, which is we all need to know about. If you haven't seen that announcement, it's another old law, very old law actually, that was never used, it's never been implemented, but it requires any immigrant present in the United States, non-citizen, to register with the government, meaning have their fingerprints taken and basically their information on file with the government. Now, this already happens for a lot of immigrants who are going through some process, right? You get a visa, you file some application to get a work permit, you have some immigration benefit, you're already registered. But for anyone undocumented, they wouldn't be registered, or likely are not. They're basically saying that they have, 30 days to register, and there are criminal penalties that already exist for not registering. Again, this has just never been enforced. So this puts immigrants in a very, very difficult, between a rock and a hard place, right? Yep. Do I register or do I risk being prosecuted criminally? And it's, I think, too early to say, and I don't think that we can really give a blanket advice on what to do. My recommendation is anyone who thinks they're in that situation, talk in private to an immigration attorney about your situation. And I don't say this because I'm an immigration attorney. I say it because it's going to benefit you. It's going to be your best, put you in the best position to make the choice after balancing the risks and the possible benefits of any option, right? And what's the right choice for you in your situation? But this is a big deal. This is the way that basically they're trying to require everybody who's here without a status to sort of turn themselves in. And so we're gonna have to keep a close eye on this, and I would encourage people, again, to find out their options. They can find out if they're already registered, they may not know it, and they may not have to do it then, or they may have some benefit they're eligible for, and instead of just registering, maybe we file for an immigration benefit and get them something that protects them, right? So this is critical. There are a lot of us doing this. We're very busy, but there are many immigration attorneys out there who can, in a consultation, probably tell if this person needs to or should, and what are the consequences of not doing it. There are also nonprofits who have attorneys who can help with this if someone can't afford a private attorney, right? So search out those resources. I know the Turners have a great list of attorneys and other trusted nonprofits.
I had a friend help me put that together.
Yeah, I know. There are resources out there, so make sure people are helping direct folks towards those resources.
Thank you.
I have two things to that, Emilio. I think it's interesting because as a green card holder myself, I wonder how dangerous, how risky is it for someone like me who is an activist working in immigration justice, right, to bring that information to the people who actually want to get rid of us. So those are questions we should be asking ourselves, and that applies to green card holders, but also to DACA and DALE and, temporary status, people with a temporary status. What are you giving them? How much information? What are you facilitating when you bring your information to them, or do they have it already? On the other hand, when it comes to self-deportation, I think for some people it might be easier to self-deport if your country of origin, is still able to receive you in peace. But many people cannot go back to war, to violence, to extreme levels of poverty, so that notion is also something that only applies to a few. And those are privileged in a way, interestingly enough. So most of the people who would like to go back to their countries because their families, their culture, their realities, their flavors are there, cannot do it.
Yeah, I wanted to jump into this conversation too because, for the Hmong folks in the Hmong, community, it's a very unique situation where we can't do that because we're a stateless group of people, and we have nowhere to go back to. And even if we get deported, we're going to be going to Laos or Thailand, where majority of our community actually don't even speak that language. We're not citizens of those countries, and so we can't even have that option, right, to self-deport because we're going back to a country where we don't know the language. We can't survive out there. Yeah.
Thank you. This has been very meaningful. And I just have a quick update. I'd like to temporarily give the mic. Do you want me to share the correction aloud, Judge? Just a little correction that, thank you, Judge Dugan, the comment that ICE is not allowed in courts. So I want you to know that ICE is not allowed in courts. And certainly during Sheriff Clark's role here, he had promulgated misinformation, which intimidated and frightened folks from showing up. But they are not allowed in courts, so know that. And certainly there have been community affirmations here in Milwaukee from city and county employees saying that they want what's best for Milwaukee, and that doesn't mean doing disruptive things like this. So thank you. That's interesting. So we're somewhat limited on time, and we have a bunch of stuff still to add at the end. What I'd like to do is recap just some of this. Ale, you were saying some really important things that centered the certainly fragile nature of folks that are here on whatever immigration status who are now also being forced to lead. And I just want to draw attention to the fact that all of you here, if you are a citizen here, should then step up as an ally. If you're concerned, if that's why you're here, you're learning, then find out what you can do to assist in this so that working under the encouragement, the guidance at the requests of folks that are threatened, because those closest to the problem are closest to the solution. And then I would feel that it is our obligation to take some of that onus and do that hard work so that they are not gambling such high stakes and getting deported to countries they've never been to, in spaces where they don't speak that language, or to an area that's being bombed by drones or heavy artillery at this moment. I think that would be a very nice thing to do. And I encourage you to do that. Are there any last words, statements, questions, words of encouragement or information that you'd like to share with all of our viewers and the folks gathered in this room today?
I think the only way we're going to be able to fight this or get through, I mean, it's going to be a long 4 years, right? We're just getting started, unfortunately. But even after these 4 years, before these 4 years, like, the attack on immigrants has been, like, consistent. So I think doing our job as, like, residents and pushing elected officials to take a bold stand, right, and be very pro-immigrant is going to be very essential. But also, like, going back to the fact that community keeps us safe, right? I think there's one part where people are scared, and you're seeing, like, folks with green cards getting detained and everybody getting detained. So now, like, who's even safe these days, right? But then there's another side of that where a lot of people found, and I'm thinking about Mahmoud, who got detained, and he's a green card holder because he was part of the Palestinian activist groups doing encampments on campus. He's gotten a lot of support, like a lot of support across the country, across the world, and I think a lot of people are seeing that it is okay to, like, step away from the shadows and join a community and get out there and fight and protest and do all of that. So that's what we encourage you all to do, is to join Comité Sin Fronteras. But also, like, show up to fight, right? Like, not physically. I mean, if it comes down to that, I'm just kidding. Don't put that on the. I know. But like March, like Alice said, we're gonna have like, I think, a pretty historic march on May 1st, which is it's a Thursday, right? But show up and I don't know, just fight. There's also people who think that they can, like, regular citizens who think they can just wake up one day and say, like, I'm gonna go and help these people, like, rally up folks. Quick story. Can I say this story? Like, as I mentioned, we're doing this rapid response network, or we're trying to build that. But as of right now, we just have this chat where it's like, if someone sees ICE or someone hears a rumor, like, they send it in the chat, and then some of us go and, like, verify. A few weeks ago, somebody sent a picture of someone with a CBP, like, uniform at a bar in Waukesha, right? And
What's
so
CBP?
I don't know.
Customs and Border Patrol.
Yeah. Something like that. And I was like, let me go, right? Like, I'll go. Mind you, like, what am I gonna do, like, in front of this man? But anyway, sure enough, like, I went, and he was there, like, he wasn't at a bar, and he was sitting down and, like, having a great time, and I was in the corner, like, trying to figure. I ordered a drink. What else do you do at a bar, right? And so I was on FaceTime with some other colleagues, and Nat was writing in the chat, like, my rights, like, you have the right to, like, record, and so it was, like, pretty real. I was like, okay, so, like, what do I do? They're trying to call for backup because you really want to go with 2 people and not just, like, 1 person. And we made the executive decision to not post on social media because he wasn't an immediate threat. He wasn't doing anything he wasn't harassing anyone. He didn't, like, detain anyone, right? And a few days later, this man turned out to be, like, a fake, and so he got arrested. He was impersonating this, so, like, I think that adds to, like, fear, where somebody can just get in uniform and, like, start targeting people, which is also important to, like, try to stop misinformation and not just post or share, like, that ISIS on, I don't know, on Beecher or something, you know what I mean? Like, make sure, like, there's pictures and videos and, like, verify. So that's another thing you all can do. But I think you guys should just join this really cool committee.
To Daisy's story, a 34-year-old Hank Glenbin, who I believe it was in West Dallas or New Berlin, I confused those 2 places, New Berlin.
New Berlin.
Had was sporting his Amazon-purchased Customs and Border Patrol uniform and walking around trying to harass people. Do you know what else he did? He walked into a police station and was hitting on sheriff's deputies and flirting with folks, and they realized very clearly that he was not a CBP agent. He was in violation of a lot of different things and wound up getting in trouble for that. But that is just an example of I have to think of non-pejorative adjectives, individuals who are breaking the law, impersonating folks, and terrorizing our communities because of this widespread fear. And then so that's a great example of how someone who is not at risk of deportation can help go and verify this. And also the very real thing of, I mean, how many times have we seen somebody say, I saw a black Escalade, ICE are here. No, it's just a tinted black car. There's 50 of them here. And so verification is important too. But I don't want to eat into your times. Please, if you'd like to share some parting words, and maybe also something that's given you hope. Certainly, I found that hopeful, Deisy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Deisy said a lot of things already that I wanted to share, but I guess I'm just, going to echo a lot of what she said. And I think it really starts with coming back as a community to support each other. And in a time where it feels like, retreating back into your house is the safest for you, but it really isn't. When everybody retreats back into their home, then who's going to be out there fighting? Who's going to be out there supporting the folks that are actually going to, get impacted by this the most? So, educate yourself, get involved in organizations such as ours, so that you can also lend your voice, lend, yourself and support, right? And be a helping hand.
Thank you.
So this year, my word is solidarity. I think that is what we need to do. But the really solidarity, not just, Facebook solidarity or Instagram solidarity, is showing up for others and building networks, community networks, where we can actually have conversations with people, understand other people's feelings, emotions, thoughts, something that we haven't been doing a lot lately. And I want to leave with that. I think hope is possible and is what's going to save us. Solidarity, hope, and community is what we can do to contrast what could happen.
Thank you.
I mean, this has been very inspirational. I'm really, feeling great about what I do, having all you guys, and hearing your stories and opinions. It feels overwhelming at times these days, right? It feels like we've got this huge, powerful federal government coming down on us. But I think what we have to do is remember our power, and that when we come together, we really have the power that matters the most, and that can make the difference in the face of institutions and, politicians. And we're gonna have to do this on multiple fronts. So it may be, we're gonna fight it with legal battles, we're in the courts, we're gonna fight it with politics and putting pressure on our politicians, or electing new politicians who aren't, in agreement with what we know is right, who aren't making just decisions. It's community building, and each of us can plug in to one or more of those ways. Maybe you see, where can I make the most difference? For me, it's my career. I'm able to make a career out of fighting for justice, which is awesome. But for you, it might be something else. So just making that step, just deciding I'm going to help in some way, whatever you decide to do is going to make a difference.
Beautiful, and thank you. It's certainly a big lift. It'd be foolish to pretend that it wasn't, and all of us need to put our shoulder under that burden. I know I say this all the time. I firmly believe we all have been called to build the beloved community. It's not promised to us. We have to build it. Again, there's lots of great resources from all of these folks. There's many. If you don't know what they are, reach out to me and I will share them with you free, or just Google immigration training, Milwaukee Turners. There's many resources that aren't ours. If you want others, I can happily, or our staff can put you in contact with that. And we've got a bunch of trainings coming up. We have many upcoming events we'd love to see you at to build community. We're not always going to give you free Fanta soda and tacos, but still. March 24th, right here, is the Turner Hall Community Forum on the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Audit. There's other county supervisors who are helping us put that together, as well as state reps, if you want to talk about that. That's 6 to 8 p.m. here. March 24th, simultaneously, we will be at the Mitchell Street Public Library doing immigration rights trainings with other folks helping, filling out forms, helping folks navigate languages. And March 25th, there's the immigration rights training at the Kazi Center, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. That's free. That's in English and in Spanish. If you're interested and you want to meet other folks getting engaged in the city, in the county, the state of the county, at 8:30 a.m., March 26th, at the Marcus Performing Arts Center. I'll be there. Look for me. I'll be hyper-caffeinated. There's also this evening, March 26th in the evening, right here, is a safety building listening session. So they're proposing a $500 million building across the street. Maybe you have some opinions on what we can do with $500 million. Here's your plans to share those thoughts or ask some questions. March 27th, there's an immigration rights training with Alderwoman Larissa Taylor in the district where they're proposing the expansion of the ICE building. Our staff will be doing that with Councilwoman Taylor. That's at 5:30 p.m. If you want the address, ask me. There's a lot of numbers here, and I'm not wearing my reading glasses. March 29th, if you're interested in being a legal observer, which is a really unique way to monitor the government and law enforcement interactions with demonstrators and civilians, we're doing that training here from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And April 1st, big important election days, Supreme Court election, Secretary of Education, there's an election for the 3rd Aldermanic District here in Milwaukee. These are very important things you should know about. I believe there's other stuff on there as well, depending on where you live. And then April 22nd, ooh, this is very exclusive, only for card-carrying Milwaukee Turners members. Our annual meeting here, which will be fun, DJ's food, and we're honoring fellow Milwaukee Turners Lorna Young, Yante Turner, and the Sunseekers Collective, Josh Bryant and John Wamser. I'll take that as my cue to ask you to join the Milwaukee Turners, and then you come to that, and you get to use our awesome historic gym downstairs. Today's nonpartisan virtual forum was sponsored in part by the Wisconsin Civic Power Table, MICA, the Public Welfare Foundation, and the Hertzfeld Foundation. Once again, I'd very much like to thank our fantastic guests. It's seldom I get moved to break the fourth wall and actually offer my opinion. I'd really also like to thank our production team, those that were manning the live stream too, and the recordings, Cheston, VanHuss, Michaela, Jalise, and Loki, all back there, our co-producers, Jahan and Becky, our staff and volunteers, and a special call out to Nat Godley, who's sitting over there, who has tirelessly been volunteering with us and so generous with his time and brilliance. I want to pause and have you guys clap out that guy right there. He's probably volunteered 200-300 hours in the past couple of months. And of course, our wonderful interpreters at DJC Interpreting and all you great folks who support this forum. Again, Taqueria El Cabrito, thank you in absentia for the tacos. Please, until next time, please take care of one another. That's a wrap. Make some new friends, and thank you.
Thank you.